When the man was admiring a famous painting, Macy accidentally sneezed. As a result, he spat his saliva all over the head of the figure in the painting. Feeling guilty and seeing that there was no one around, he took out a handkerchief and began to wipe the famous painting. But unexpectedly, with this wipe, he turned the head in the painting blue. It turned out that the ink from the pen in his pocket had spilled onto the handkerchief. The flustered Mr. Bean immediately closed the door of the exhibition hall. Then he carefully took down the famous painting. He spat on the head of the figure in the painting, trying to fix it, but when he was wiping, he accidentally pushed the painting out and even stepped on it heavily a few times. When he finally managed to steady himself, he had a flash of inspiration and came up with a good idea. Then he covered the famous painting horizontally with a white cloth and disguised it as a food cart, heading towards the utility room in the basement. But who would have thought that just after turning a corner, he bumped into the real food cart head-on. In this critical moment, Mr. Bean quickly pretended to look at an airplane, successfully attracting the other person's attention. He himself crossed paths with the waiter, while the waiter was distracted. When the waiter realized that something was wrong, Mr. Bean had already reached the room. Bean first fixed the famous painting, and then took a bottle of paint from the shelf. When he wiped the famous painting with great joy, unexpectedly, it really had an effect. Seeing this scene, Mr. Bean immediately became interested. He started rubbing the head of the figure in the painting vigorously. Soon he wiped off all the ink. However, just as he was feeling happy about his own cleverness, unexpectedly, when he turned his head, he saw a terrifying sight. There were actually bubbles where he had just wiped.